Everyone, welcome to Data Engineers Lunch. We'll give everyone a couple more minutes to file in and we'll go ahead and get started soon. Everyone, welcome to Data Engineers Lunch. We'll give everyone a couple more minutes to file. Hey everyone, welcome to Data Engineers Lunch. We'll give everyone another minute or two to file in and we'll go ahead and get started soon. Alrighty, go ahead and cut the music. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Data Engineers Lunch number 63. Today's talk is going to be on building a cryptocurrency data catalog. Today's guest speaker is going to be Travis Collins, who's a founder at DataPM. You can find out more about Travis at his LinkedIn, as well as you can check out datapm.io. The link is in our YouTube description, but we'll also drop it in the Zoom chat as well. The co-organizers for this event are Rahul and myself. If you are interested in giving a talk at Data Engineers Lunch, as well as our sister lunch, Cassandra.Link, feel free to reach out to me. My email is listed below. Also, if you're interested in sponsoring Data Engineers Lunch or Cassandra.Link, you can reach out to me as well. We are part of Data Community DC. Data Community DC believes in building an inclusive environment. So no matter your race, gender, sexual orientation, everyone is welcome and we expect the respect to be given to all. Data Community DC is built of a bunch of different organizations. Data Engineers Lunch falls under Data Wranglers DC. If you're interested in all the various different organizations that fall under the umbrella of Data Community DC, you can find out more at datacommunitydc.org. So what do we cover here at Data Engineers Lunch? We cover everything from ingress to egress of data, data cleansing, ETL, feature engineering, data wrangling, which is a very important part, kind of put together, but essentially the movement of data, the cleaning of data, etc. And with today's talk about DataPM, I think people will be excited about some of the opportunities they can have with data wrangling and their processes as well. If anyone's new at Data Engineers Lunch, say hi, hello. What do you do with data engineering? What do you hope to get out of Data Engineers Lunch? You can drop it in the Zoom chat as well as the YouTube chat. Group rules, if you have a question, please do ask it, but please be polite and courteous to others. The guest speaker may have preferences in terms of when they prefer questions. So when we hand it over to the guest speaker today, they'll cover those preferences. And this is meant to be a community, so please do share what you know with us. If you have any experience in any of the tools or processes that we talk about here at Data Engineers Lunch, feel free to speak up, drop comments, interact with us. The more you know, the more everyone knows as well. So it's a give and take here. At Data Engineers Lunch. Here at Anant, we design, build, and manage global real-time data analytics platforms surrounding Cassandra, Spark, and Kafka. So data engineering is a way of life for us. DataStax is a partner and a sponsor. GW University helps provide in-venue space when we have in-person events. We also have some institutional organizational sponsors. If anyone has any job offerings or is looking for a job, you can drop links to resumes, etc. Or if you have any job offerings, you can drop links to those and we'll get those transferred to and from the YouTube to the Zoom. If anyone has any meetups or hackathons that they would like to promote, feel free to drop links to those as well and we'll get them transferred to and from below. DataStax Astra currently has a hackathon that's ongoing. We'll drop the link below, but the second round should be finishing up soon. So there's 3 months, 3 rounds of challenges. So if you missed the first 2 months, you can join the third month. And the top 3 winners for each round qualify to present their project ideas on demo day, which will be held on May 28th. And then there's cash and swag prizes to be won for each round, as well as the demo day as well. So if you're interested in that, I'll drop the link below. Anant is hiring full-time or part-time positions, data platform operators, engineer, architects. If you're interested, you can find out more at careers.anant.us. Some upcoming events that we have: Cassandra lunches occur Thursdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. And again, data engineers lunches happen on Mondays at 12 p.m. Eastern. And we are looking at a more variable time slot to meet the live for the world. But again, all these videos are live streamed directly to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/AnantCorp. So if you do miss the live event, you can always watch the live recording directly as well. And with that, we will hand it over to our speaker for today, Travis.
Howdy, I'm Travis Collins. I am the founder of DataPM, and that we're going to talk about today. You mentioned my preferences for questions. Definitely ask questions, put them in the chat. I will try to hit the questions at breaks and try to keep up with those. So with that, here we go. So DataPM. The purpose of DataPM is to build communities around data that matters. You're a data engineer, you have data inside your organization and outside your organization. And today I'm going to help you discover how you can expand the scope of data that you use. All right, so DataPM's mission is to organize the world's data and make it universally accessible and useful. You might notice that as Google's original mission statement. We replace the word information with data. We're focused on the movement of data around the world. So what is DataPM? In a nutshell, it's a data catalog server and an ETL tool tightly integrated together. Gives you some really interesting use cases that we'll go over today. First thing to know, DataPM is open source, and I am super excited that because DataPM has been under progress for about 18 months, and we open sourced it today. So you can go to that link and see all the code for the server and the client, and we'll talk about some of the cool stuff you might be able to do with that. DataPM is for, I guess I would say the primary use case for DataPM is for collaborating on data across organizations or teams in large organizations. So you probably work on a team that is standardized on a set of tools, and that's great. You can move data around that team. But when you need to collaborate with people outside of your organization, especially at scale, you'll find that you have your internal tools, those teams have their external tools. How do you easily collaborate, move data, and move data across those boundaries? So we're going to talk about that. DataPM stands for Data Package Manager. If you are a software developer, you probably recognize the concept of a package manager. For example, Maven for Java or npm.js for JavaScript, pip for Python. When you're a software developer, you can easily use these package managers to import code from third parties directly into your project or make them dependencies of your project. And we asked ourselves, well, where is that for data? Where can I go out in the world and discover high quality packages of data that I can use and import into my organization? Or where's the tool that I can use to take my organization's data that needs to be published out to the world and publish it? So that's DataPM. All right, so DataPM covers batch and streaming use cases. We're going to go through that today. It has public and private use cases, so we'll talk about that. And it has a schema change management use case. And finally, you'll know when things break. Let's talk about that. You can host your own DataPM registry. Today, I'm going to show you DataPM.io, which is the global cloud instance registry that you can use. You can also host DataPM in a Docker instance or in a cloud system, AWS, GCP, etc., for your own private use. And another thing to know about DataPM is you probably shouldn't be putting your data in DataPM. And I know that's a funny thing to say about DataPM, but DataPM is specifically made to help you organize your work around the data systems you're already using. So it is not a proposal to change your data processes. It's a new method, a new way to extend the functionality of the deliveries you're already doing. This is a data flow. We'll go over this in detail. I'm going to leave it here in the slide deck so anybody can go back and study it if they want to. All right, now for the demo. If you go to datapm.io, you'll find this, building communities around data that matters. And just like other package managers or GitHub, we can see that we have publicly available packages. For today's demo, I'm going to talk about cryptocurrency data. I'm going to talk about a fictitious company named HedgeCo. So HedgeCo is a cryptocurrency trading company that has traders that build algorithms or execute strategies to try to make money. And to do this, they need data from the world. So they know about changes in market status. They know about what's going on in the news. They know about the weather around the world. They know about how individual markets around the world are moving. And to do that, a data engineer working at HedgeCo would have to build a library of these publicly available data sources to pull in, and also catalog the data that they have internal to HedgeCo, so that analysts and traders and engineers and operations people can center themselves around that data. So this is where DataPM comes in. We're going to start off with Coinbase exchange pairs. Okay, so if you're familiar with cryptocurrencies, you're probably familiar with Coinbase. You'll find that Coinbase and all these exchanges have supported pairs of cryptocurrencies. For example, ETH and BTC, AAV, Tether, USDT. The point here is not to get into the nitty-gritty details, but it's to know that you can trade US dollars for Bitcoin, for example. And one of the basic things that HedgeCo would have to know is what pairs of coins can I exchange at each one of the exchanges. And if I'm operating in multiple exchanges, there can be thousands of these. And so keeping up with that change is really important. Keeping up with the change of the movement of those pairs at every exchange is very important as well. So I'm gonna go back over to DataPM. I've already searched for Coinbase, and here we can see somebody has already conveniently created for us a package of cryptocurrency exchange pairs at Coinbase. So I see in my package a quick description, a license, and a preview of what's actually in that data. Great, so this looks like it's what I need here at HedgeCo. I can go down and see the schema as well if I'm more interested in the details of it. So for example, I can open up this status attribute and see that it is always a string, and its presence in 100% of the total records, and in 5 records it's listed as delisted. So this is good. This includes not only the active pairs, but the history of deactivated pairs. I think this is a package I want to use. I want to go ahead and click this here to copy, and I'm going to move over to my terminal. So I said that before that DataPM is both a catalog server and an ETL tool. So I'm going to paste that command into my terminal. Voila, just like a normal code package manager, it's gone and reached out to the DataPM registry and said, okay, I found one package. It has some records. Do I want to, I want to take this data and put it in my data repository, the repository that my team has agreed to use to manage data. And for this purpose, we're going to use Postgres. So the DataPM ETL tool is asking me, do I want to exclude any attributes from these products? No, I'm going to go ahead and take all the columns. Do I want to rename any attributes? No, not now. Now it's asking me, where should we put it? So as I said before, we're going to choose Postgres. I'm going to choose my local Postgres repo, which I'd already entered before. I'm going to choose the Postgres credentials that I'd already typed in before. And I'm going to put it in a database called demo, and I'll keep the default schema name. Now it's asking me, how does it handle conflicting values? In a CSV, for example, a single column could contain both numbers and strings, or doubles and integers, etc. So I'm going to choose the defaults for now. All right, it's taken that data and it's written it to Postgres. If I go back over to my Postgres tool of choice and refresh, we'll see here that it created a schema and some tables. And I already had it open for you because obviously I've already done this before. But it wrote that data to this table. And in fact, DataPM in that process created this table, created the schema, and populated the table. Which means I didn't have to do any work. When I discovered that, I went from discovering that data to putting it in my database in just a few commands in less than a minute. So this is the power of DataPM. Once you've created a package, it's useful to a lot of people. Of course, this could be BigQuery, it could be DynamoDB, it could be Elasticsearch, MySQL, etc. We have a lot of connectors now. We'll have more connectors in the future. It is open source, and if you want to write connectors, we'd love to talk to you about that. All right, I see some questions have come in the chat. I'll take a break here. And let's see, how does DataPM compete with complement like CCAN, which allows people to share and use data? Yeah, DataPM and CCAN, there's a lot of products out there that are data cataloging tools that kind of highly overlap in certain areas. DataPM is focused on that cross-organizational boundary. So it is useful inside an organization to create data catalogs inside the organization, but it goes across organizational boundaries as well. And it has this built-in ETL tool. All right. So swapping back to my example here, we had the Coinbase exchange pairs. Now I've got those exchange pairs in. I want to discover some Coinbase historical data as well. My traders are going to make good decisions about now. They could use historical data to populate their algorithms as well. So I see here we have this Bitcoin charts. Bitcoin charts is a great website that has historical data, and they happen to have a repository of CSV files and gzip files for that data. And I can do the same process of pulling that data from those gzipped CSV files into my Postgres database. Instead of re-showing you exactly what I've already shown, I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to show you what it takes to make a package. So they have, as you can see, I've already got a package here for Coinbase BTC USD historical data. So this is, millions upon millions of records of historical trades. I'd like to go find the same thing for Kraken. So over here, let's see. If you're not familiar, Kraken is another cryptocurrency exchange that's popular in the US. So I'm going to copy that link to that file, and I'm going to go back to the command line. And now I'm going to create a package because I saw that it was not there before. So here we go, package. I'm using the DataPM package command, and I'm giving it the URL to that gzip file of Kraken historical BTC USD data. Okay, so the DataPM command has gone, opened up that file, looked inside the CSV, give me the first few lines, and it's asking me, do I see a header on top of this? No, I don't, unfortunately. So we're going to have to do something about that. It's asking me how the files are updated. So is this file updated throughout, kind of edited anywhere, or is it only appended to like a log? Turns out the way that Bitcoin charts does this is it appends like a log, and we can use this information in the future. So now the DataPM client is going and streaming through the CSV file, discovering the columns and the types of values that are in the file. It runs typically for about 30 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and end it now so we can move on. It's discovered about 2.3 million records containing 3 columns, all with numbers in them. So now it's asking me, for the purposes of publishing this package, are there any columns that you would typically want to exclude? I'm going to say no. Do I want to rename it into columns? Yes, we do want to rename the columns and make them a little bit more useful to our downstream users. It's asking me which columns I want to rename. I'm going to hit A to select all the columns. And now it's asking me, okay, what it was column 0, what was in column 0? Now, I happen to know a little bit of information about this package or about this data because I've looked into it before. The first column, as you can see here, is a timestamp in milliseconds. The second column here is the price paid in US dollars at the time. And the third column is how much Bitcoin was purchased. So I'm going to go ahead and call the first column time milliseconds. And the second, or the column 1, I'm going to name it, let's see, price. And the third column, I'm going to call it quantity, or Q2Y. So it's asking me, was this data derived from any other upstream data? We can use this for data lineage. We'll skip that for now. What does each record represent? It represents a trade. And do I want to specify unit numbers for these? Yes, I do, because I think that would be useful to my analyst. So the time milliseconds is in milliseconds. And the price is in USD, and the quantity is in BTC, or Bitcoin. So now it's asking me, what do I want to name this package? I'm going to name this Kraken BTC USD trades. And it's asking me, can I give this a short, friendly package name, which we'll use here in a moment. It's saying, what should the starting version be? And we'll go over versioning and schema change management in a moment. And it's asking me for a short package description. We'll call this Kraken historical BTC USD trades. Just for example, I'll skip the website for now. It's asking, do we want to take a snapshot of some records for samples to show in the package description, in the package page? Yes, I do. I'll take 100 of them. And now it's asking, do I want to publish this package? Yes, I do. The target registry that I'm going to publish this to is the DataPM.io public registry. And I'm going to choose the Bitcoin, I can type Bitcoin charts catalog. We'll talk about catalogs here in a moment. It's asking, how will the client access this data? And this is the point where, remember that I talked about before, you do not have to put your data in DataPM. So I'm going to choose to publish just the schema and leave the data on, of course, bitcoincharts.com, so that in the future, when other people use the DataPM client to fetch this data, they'll connect directly to bitcoincharts.com, and they will not pull the data directly from DataPM. And drop a question in the chat if you have any questions about that. So I'm going to choose the publish method. It's asking me to confirm if that's okay. Yes, it is. All right, it has now published this new package that we created to DataPM. So we'll go in here and paste the package in. There it is. The first thing to note is the package is not yet public. You'll notice it says not public up here, but we can see a preview of the records that were captured. We can see the version 1.0. We can see the schema, including the custom column names that I gave it. If I was to go use this package, fetch it, I can do the same process of using this package to fetch that data into a database or a local file system or a cloud system, etc. So I'll pause there. That was creating a package. Yeah, see the next question. Are there any limitations in the types of files that can be used to create packages? Great question. It is limited to the files that it supports, the file types that it supports, but it already supports a wide variety of them: JSON, Excel, CSV, Google Sheets. There's all kinds of files in there, XML. And the way that, for example, that it supports JSON is it uses, when you create a package out of a JSON file, for example, it would ask you for the JSON path. Or if you did the same thing for XML, it would ask you for the XML path, which allows you to specify the subset of the JSON document or the XML document that represents the records in that document. It can even do multiple JSON files in zip files where there are multiple zip files, for example, in a directory. There's a way that you can have DataPM know which zip files and which JSON files to pull out so that it can extract those records. And we spent a tremendous amount of time making it useful for these really complex data publishing use cases that are already going on. And the reason that you would create a package like this, or the value in creating a package, is that when you create that package, you're doing all the mental work that it takes to go and say, okay, here's the file type, here's how you parse it, here's where it lives, here's what's in it. Once you've done that work, nobody else has to do it. you can publish that package file to the DataPM registry server, and then other people that can see it can consume that data without having to answer all the same questions. I see we have a question about, okay, great, the YouTube link. All right, so that was creating a package. Now let's talk a little bit about schema change management. And for this example, in HedgeCo, our operations team has decided to create a trading strategies Google Sheet. And this is a sheet that they use internally to track who's doing what, how much money are they making, kind of what's going on in this corporation at scale. Now, clearly, most organizations use a little bit more advanced tooling, but for the purposes of this demo, I wanted to show you what schema change management looks like, and Google Sheets is a really easy way to do that. So here we have some exchange pairs that we're executing strategies against, what kind of strategy that we are using for that exchange pair, who's running it, who's the trader for this exchange pair, and how much capital do they have, how much profit have they made year to date. And this is, of course, a simplified example, but I'd like to make this data, this internal private data, available to our analysts and to other tools, and move it out of this Google Sheet into a database that we can use for dashboarding, et cetera. So I'll go back to my command line. And again, oh, I'm sorry, I've actually already created a package. Sorry. For the demo purposes, you've already seen creating a package. We're not going to repeat that. I've already created a package for this Google Sheet in a HedgeCo catalog. And we'll talk about catalogs here in a moment. But we call this the strategies package. So here, somebody's gone in and created a helpful description. Again, we can see a preview of it, and we see it has a version number 200. So I'm going to move my browser over here so we can get two browser windows open. So now I'm logged in as two individual users. We call this the publishing user and this the consuming user. The publishing user went in and created this package, gave it descriptions, et cetera, and then shared using the Manage tab over here, shared with this consuming user named Dreamingwell over here. And Dreamingwell went in and said, this is great, it looks good, but we need something in addition to it. So we have an issues tab, just like GitHub issues, where two users can go in and collaborate and provide comments and feedback on tasks that need to be tackled. So here, the Dreamingwell user is saying, we need to add a column that tells us which one of these trading strategies we're using is actually active, because we're not actively doing all of these anymore. So, okay, great. That's a good point. I'm going to go in and add a column in here. I'm going to name it active, and I'm going to give most of them to be true, and I'll pick out maybe one or two of them, one of them over here to be false. Okay, so I have just changed the schema of this file, and that should, any data engineer knows the pain. This just set off alarm bells that downstream systems are going to break. Oh my gosh, you changed the schema and you didn't tell anybody. The DataPM registry will periodically go look at the data sources that back these packages and update them. What I'm going to do right now is manually cause the same thing that the DataPM registry does to happen. So what it does is it's like the packaging step, but it just goes and looks at it. And this is called the update command. Make sure I got that spelled right. So it's connecting the DataPM registry, it's pulling the package, it's going back to the source, it's looking at that Google Sheet, okay, pulled it out, and it's saying it found two differences. And that one of the differences was that it added a property named active. And you'll notice here in the published version, we've incremented from the old version of 2.0.0 to 2.1.0. So let's talk a little bit about what little magic just happened there. Version numbers in software are broken up into three parts. They're called the breaking, or the major, the minor, and the patch. Here for DataPM, we call these the breaking, additive, and descriptive changes. If the first number changes over here, you're describing a broken change. You've removed a column. You've done something that's irreversible to the downstream consumers. If the middle number changes, you've done something additive. You added a column, you've added additional information that maybe the consumers don't know about yet, but it's additive to their workflow and so shouldn't be breaking to them. And then finally, this last number is descriptive. You've given it a nifty new title or described something in the package. So when I did that DataPM update command on the package, it went and found the differences between the old package and the new package and automatically incremented this number. So when I go over here and refresh, we'll see we have our new version number. We see we have the new column active already in the package preview, and it's also down here in the schema. The user over here who actually I forgot to do the follow steps. The user over here can also see the same changes. Had I done this before, you would have shown an email. That's fine. You can subscribe to packages to be alerted of changes. So for example, this user could select, I want to know instantly when any change type that is breaking happens, and I want to follow all of the issues on this. This change type here is cumulative. So if you choose breaking, it's going to include additive and descriptive, etc. All right, so I hit save. Now this user is following it. Over here, we can see the users that are following it. This is important to know. Hey, when I make a change to this structure, who's going to be affected by this? What users are interested in this package? So had I done that backwards, the user over here would have received an email saying, hey, a breaking change just happened to this package and you should know about it. Go back over here. We're in our issues. Great. Done. Thanks. And we'll close the issue. Cool. All right. So okay, comment and close the issue. There you go. So that is an example cycle of using a simple data source inside an organization, showing breaking or additive changes and how two users can go back and forth and use DataPM to collaborate on those changes. So I'll stop and check out the comments. Oh, great tooling. Thank you very much. When you're adding support for Cassandra protocol, which is supported by all those. Oh yeah, when are we adding? So we're constantly adding sources. And in fact, we're going to talk, everything we've talked about today has been a batch source. We're going to jump into streaming sources here real quick. And there's going to be a really cool part number 2 question as well. So I love to add some of the Cassandra tooling, like DataStax. I'm very familiar with DataStax. DataPM is open source. And so if you have a reason to believe that you would want, data of a certain set that we already support into a new source or a sync for DataPM, we'd be happy to receive contributions. We're going to do a whole video on how to create a source in DataPM. It's all written in TypeScript. It's fairly straightforward, and I'd be happy to support you. We have a Slack community. We'll have the link here at the end, and you can join that Slack community and we can talk about how to create sources. All right, so everything that we just talked about was for batch sources. Now let's talk about streaming sources. Back to my HedgeCo example. If I'm a trader and I am looking at data, if I have a batch updating system, then it's going to be, there's a little bit of delay. DataPM does help those batch update systems run, and you can do some interesting kind of enhancements to those batch systems. But really, streaming real-time data is, the trader's life. They want to know, or especially the analyst's life. They want to know what's happening right now. So going back to Coinbase, we'll go and see that there's already a DataPM package for Coinbase tickers. And you'll notice back here, it is streaming. So some of these say batch, stream, etc. So this is a streaming source of data, which means it's always on. It's a little bit different. Managing a streaming source versus a batch source is a little bit different. But DataPM makes that easier by putting them into the same kind of interface. So just like before, when I had my batch, I fetched batch data into a database. Now I'm going to fetch streaming data, but I'm going to do a little twist on this. Okay, so saying I can see my Coinbase tickers. If you're not familiar with tickers, tickers are whenever the proposed price of an exchange pair at an exchange changes, they call that a tick. So, the price goes up or down a little bit. That's called a tick. And so here it's asking me again, do I want to exclude or rename? No, I don't. I'll choose, it's asking me which exchange pairs I'm interested in at Coinbase. So I'm going to choose all of the ETH, USD, and USDC and USDT. These USDC and USDT are like virtual US dollars. You can Google about it. It's sort of an interesting phenomenon, or interesting use case. And I'm going to choose 3 different sets of exchange pairs, and I could put these in lots of different places. But one of, I think, the most interesting places to stream this data into are purpose-built streaming platform or streaming processing platforms. So this today is part 1 of a presentation about building this cryptocurrency data warehouse, or data set, data catalog. Part 2 that Eric Sammer from Decodable is going to provide is using DataPM to stream multiple sets of ticker data from Coinbase and maybe other exchanges into Decodable. And you can go to decodable.co. I'll give a link here at the end to talk about it. I want to give this example that DataPM is not just about streaming into databases and systems that you run, but can also be about third-party systems. It could be about moving data from one third-party cloud system to another. So at Decodable, I've already created a DataPM account. I'm going to choose my existing authorization profile that I already did. I think Eric will probably cover those. Now I'm going to tell it I want to put this into a stream. I'm going to keep the default name here, but just real quick, if you're familiar with Kafka or other streaming systems, they have topics, and Decodable has the same concept of a stream. That's what they call it, a stream of records. So I'm going to put it into that stream. They also have this concept of connectors, where you create a connector that represents the source of the data that connects into the stream. It writes data. And so you could have multiple connectors into a single stream, or you could have one stream per connector. That's up to you. So I'm going to have it automatically create those connectors. So DataPM went in, just like when it created in Postgres the table and the table schema necessary to support the data for a batch system. DataPM just did the same thing for Decodable. So it created the stream and the connection. It also created the schema in Decodable, mapping from the package file to that Decodable schema. So I didn't have to do that. It's asking me again, what do we do about kind of conflicting values? I will choose the default. And now we can see that we are streaming records. This is a long-lived, ongoing process. DataPM takes care of automatic reconnects, for example. So if you lose internet connection or Coinbase goes down, et cetera, it'll automatically reconnect and continue streaming. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go over here into a Decodable system and take a look. Oh yeah, I'm on the pipeline. So they have 3 concepts: pipeline, streams, and connections. So connections is the first step. The connector was created by DataPM, and we can see here the schema that it created. And we can also see the stream that it created here. And let's see, yeah, I'm in the stream. Yeah, there's the schema that was already created in the stream as well. They had schemas per stream and per connection. Let's see, here we go, details, overview. Oh, I see they've changed their interface a little bit. I'll let Eric cover that, how you can take this live streaming data and then create analytics using SQL. So what's really cool about Decodable is they allow you to do kind of windowed SQL across live streams of data. And that's what he'll talk about. Okay, so that's DataPM in a nutshell. You can, kind of in summary, DataPM is a place for packages for public and private data in the public registry or in your private registry to help you move or collaborate on data across organizational boundaries. With that, I'll take any questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
So, oh, sorry, did someone?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so are there any plans, or I guess any talk about it in the open source aspects of it, of integrating some aspects of having some sort of transformations ahead of time on the data as a part of the DataPM tool or CLI as you're doing it?
That's Yeah, that's a great question. So DataPM is focused on that moving of data across. And so we purposefully excluded most transformations from DataPM because we don't want DataPM to become a competitive tool to the other transformation. Decodable is a great tool to do it for doing transformations on streaming data. Postgres is a great tool for, once you've got data into Postgres for doing querying and transformation. We do have the ability, to exclude columns, to rename columns, and we're going to add governance. Actually, I think I have this on a slide here, kind of the future roadmap. We're interested in transformations that are related to governance. So, for example, if I have a data set that has columns or rows in it that are sensitive, that I mark as sensitive, and I still want to maintain this one golden record copy of the data, but I want to distribute it to consumers that have varying levels of access to that data, then I need to do mask, and I might need to mask a column or a row. I might need to encrypt it or do a one-way hash on it or differential privacy on it. We're interested in those kind of transformations to support governance. Does that make sense?
Got it. Appreciate it.
Cool. Any other questions, thoughts? Poetry? No poetry? All right. So I'll talk a little bit about this future roadmap. So as you saw today, DataPM is command line client. It's built in a way that all of those commands that we just used, the fetch, package, update, there's an edit command, there's a few others. They're all built such that they can be used in multiple execution environments. So we have it in a command line client today. We're targeting a GUI client to make it even easier to move data, for those people that are not command line familiar. Imagine a GUI client that pops up, see my packages, move the package from its source to its destination using your mouse without a keyboard. I think that's going to be really interesting. Talked about data governance already. We're going to add in more data governance style features. We really want to support companies that are especially selling data to help them know, exactly what they're selling to who, help them track that, and kind of other data governance use cases. We are going to add a querying capability, and this would be querying capability like for an analyst. One interesting feature that I am really looking forward to is the ability to query across packages no matter where they live. Imagine writing a SQL join query where one data source is a CSV sitting on SharePoint and the other data source is a BigQuery table that's publicly open to you, and join with another one that's a package that you created, where you can go and run these queries on packages you don't really know exactly where the data is. You know exactly what the data is in, or what's in that data, but you don't have to write all the ETL scripts to pull that data into a centralized repository before you do the query. You can just write the query. So that, I think, is going to be a really interesting feature. And then in the long-term future, we want to put a buy button so that DataPM.io becomes kind of a marketplace where you can publish, of course, publicly available free data, or you can publish data that you have to pay for so that you can get a higher quality set of data. All right. And that's our future roadmap. Any questions or thoughts there? All right. So I already mentioned it. Next week, tune in, same bat time, same bat channel, I think, for Decodable stream processing using DataPM. And as I mentioned before, you can join our Slack community. If you have questions, you can find the button right on the front page of datapm.io. And that's all I have.
All righty, great talk. Yeah, this is a super interesting tool. Looking forward to see what people create with the open source aspects. I know we're a company that focuses on Cassandra, so maybe potentially putting together or creating a connector or working with someone in the community to build a connector with Cassandra, I think would be really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, as Travis mentioned, today's talk is part one of a series that we're doing with the talk with Decodable, which will be next Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern. The YouTube link is in the Zoom chat as well as the YouTube chat. Again, you can find the video on our channel as well. And as well as if you want to check out Decodable ahead of time, They have a developer, which is a free tier. So if you want to check it out potentially on your own, connect Decodable and DataPM, you can try it out for yourself. See if you come up with any questions, if you run into any issues that you can bring up to Eric, who'll be giving the talk next week. And yeah, we're here, same time, same place next week. If anyone has any questions for Travis, feel free to drop any comments on our YouTube channel, as well as if Travis, if you have any emails or if you want to join the Slack group, you can drop that link below. And check out datapm.io as well as the GitHub channel or the GitHub repository, github.com/bigarmor with a hyphen in between /datapm. And with that, we'll wrap up for today and take care. We'll see everyone next